David Saxby is a dapper retailer with 2 shops right here in the heart of fashionable Fulham, where he sells style to a certain sort of chap.
David is the son of a miner selling the cloth of kings.
So, David, where did you get your flair for fine tailoring?
Really good question. I was a little bit lucky. It was all accidental, really. I worked for a really old-fashioned company in Scarborough called W.W. Gibson & Son, recognised as leading men's outfitters, Scarborough surrounding district. Being such a traditional, old-fashioned firm and having my staff discount, I had Harris tweed suits made with matching deerstalkers and that sort of thing, when everybody else was charging around in like mod stuff, which is OK, but I think that set my style for my life, really.
So who is it who comes in and buys these kind of jackets?
Well, it's very much a local shop. There's a Fulham and Chelsea type, a lot of pretty girls, and dashing young cavalry officers and guards officers. And if you could choose your customers, these guys wear clothes with style and pride, and they tend to stand up straight. So pretty good, pretty good walking advert for the shop. They need their tweeds for the races. They need their forward kit for weddings, and they look good in it.
Your fashion tends to follow the seasons of the society calendar, not necessarily the weather.
Well, we're not like the fashion business. We're the style business, really, but we're probably more abruptly seasonal than anything in the fashion business. We cater, not all tweeds are for shooting, +4s like this, most of which we make to order, but we also have hundreds to go off the peg, probably the widest range in the world maybe. But we don't sell any of these in between January the 31st and August.
So we're here with the top hats, and this is all about Ascot, isn't it?
It's, people are not wearing hats that much at weddings today. I think it's Ascot which drives it, isn't it? I mean, some steward will come tell you to put your hat on if you're walking around with it. An awful lot of chaps got their grandfather's hat and it's too small, and you cannot make a hat look right. If it's the wrong size, it just isn't going to work at all. This hat is my circumference, but it's the wrong shape for me, so it doesn't go down far enough, and it's not going to look good. Put it back like that, that's not right either. We get some really, really beautiful old hats. This one, for example, I've got to sew a band into this. The crown and the brim made sort of separately, so you can get a nice curve, a nice sideways curve on the brim like that. This is a very stylish hat, and this hat would get quite a premium because it's tall too. People like a tall hat. Tell
me, the wedding.
Oh, the wedding.
The wedding. Yes. How many of your clientele do you think are going to be out there strutting their stuff in your stuff?
There are quite a lot of people that have come in and bought for that wedding, but I think a lot of people keep quiet about it too. And the normal questions that you ask when you say, oh, somebody's buying a waistcoat for a wedding, you say, oh, when's the wedding? And they say, oh, it's next month. And they say, oh, where is it in town? And they say, yeah. And then they start getting a bit cagey when you say, oh, is that the bride's parents? And they haven't got an answer. Say, oh, well, keep quiet, it's that wedding. You know? But it's a bit of fun to know that you might be dressing maybe 10–20% of the people at that wedding. The people that are well dressed will have bought their stuff from you.
That sort of clientele expect a certain sartorial standard. David is all about the commodity of quality.
This is probably the waistcoat that I'm most proud of. I think when I first made a waistcoat out of this material, which normally costs about £120 a metre, I buy it a little cheaper. I've got the only waistcoat factory in the country, and we work to really traditional standards. And this little bit here might seem quite insignificant, but most cheap waistcoats have sort of cut corners and will not have a neckband anymore or a collar. This has to be finished by hand. It has to be hand sewn along here, it has to be perfectly parallel. In the middle here we've got, there's a 4-inch expansion seam. Big chaps that have 3 daughters and they're size 50 chest, they're going to be a different size at every wedding, so it's quite handy if you can reduce it we can get another 3 inches out of the chest if somebody decides to pork out for the second wedding.
When it comes to detail, let's talk about tweed, because everyone is a little bit different, isn't it?
Well, I generally have about 300 different tweeds to choose from different molds, but I have my favourite source who produce a lot of individual rolls, which I buy the complete roll. That's enough to make sort of 15 jackets from one 50-metre roll. So if you're at something like Cheltenham Races, where everyone's wearing a tweed jacket or tweed suit, it's best not to be bumping into 100 people wearing exactly the same thing because they've always bought from the same source.
So what is the key to successful selling?
Doing it a lot and getting a lot of practice, really. We're all a little vain, me especially, and we all like to dress well, so yeah, everything I've done has appealed to people's vanity. It was a little bit slightly irritating when people say to me, being a tweed man, oh, tweed's very fashionable now, isn't it? It's not, and it never has been. Style and the use of tweed has got nothing to do with fashion.
You deal a lot with gentry. Do you feel a part of it?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's unforgivable for anyone to describe himself as a gentleman or anything like that. And I mean, I'm just the chap behind the counter selling the clothes. I happen to have the lucky position that I can make anything I like.
But if, like me, you're a bit common and aren't the proud owner of a Saxby jacket or an invite to the Royal Nuptials, you can always play Spot the Saxby when you're watching the wedding on TV.